Whoops. Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Cairo and today we're going to talk about all the books that I bought because of TikTok. I've been buying a lot of books this year, and by a lot of books I mean like a lot of books. I have about 13 books to show you. I'll pick them all up. Let's see. A lot of fucking books. Can I say that? I don't know. A lot of books. I guess I'll start with all of the Colleen Hoover books that I have. So these are all of the Colleen Hoover books that I bought because of TikTok. Some of them I've read, some of them I haven't read, so I guess we'll start with the ones that I have read. We're first going to start with It Ends With Us. This book is so good. This was my first ever Colleen Hoover book, and when I tell you she had me in a chokehold, she had me in a chokehold. I'm not very good at explaining what the book is about, so I guess I'll just read the back. Lily hasn't always had it easy, but that's never stopped her from working hard for the life she wants. She's come a long way from the small town in Maine where she grew up. She graduated college, moved to Boston, and started her own business. So when she feels a spark for a gorgeous neurosurgeon named Ryle, everything in Lily's life suddenly seems almost too good to be true. Ryle is assertive, stubborn, maybe even a little arrogant, also sensitive, brilliant, and has a total soft spot for Lily, but Ryle's complete aversion to relationships is disturbing. As questions about her new relationship overwhelms her, so do the thoughts of Atlas Corrigan, her first love and a link to the past she left behind. He was her kindred spirit, her protector. When Atlas suddenly reappears, everything Lily has built with Ryle is threatened. With this bold and deeply personal novel, Colleen Hoover delivers a heart-wrenching story that breaks exciting new grounds for her as a writer. It Ends With Us is an unforgettable tale of love that comes at an ultimate price. So when I first picked up this book, I wasn't super interested. I read the blurb in the back and I wasn't super interested, but let me tell you, this was a, spoiler alert, this was a 5-star read for me, and that's honestly really hard because I feel like I've been trying so hard to find a lot of books that I'm like, oh my god, yes, this is 5 stars, but this book right here was great. It was amazing. Maybe I'll do a completely different video when I don't have so many books to show you and just go through like all of my thoughts, but you know, I tabbed the heck out of it. So I really love this book and you should definitely go pick it up. Okay, so the next book that I bought because of TikTok is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. It's not exactly love at first sight for Tate Collins when she meets the tormented and secretive Miles Archer. They wouldn't even go so far as consider themselves friends. The only thing Tate and Miles have in common is the mutual physical attraction that can't be denied. Once the desires are out in the open, they realize they might have stumbled on the perfect no-strings arrangement. He isn't looking for love and she doesn't have time for it, so that just leaves sex. What they've got could be surprisingly satisfying, as long as Tate can stick to the 2 rules Miles has for her. Never ask about the past, don't expect the future. They think they can handle it, but everything is different when emotions start to change the equation. I've read this one. I gave this one a 3-star just because I read this right after It Ends With Us, and honestly, in my opinion, it didn't compare. I tabbed it a little bit, but I just thought that It Ends With Us was way better than Ugly Love, and I feel like this was one of Colleen's earlier writings because I could just feel how much more mature It Ends With Us was versus this one, but it was still a good book, but I definitely prefer It Ends With Us. Okay, so the next book I have by Colleen Hoover is Verity. Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin. When she accepts the job offer of a lifetime, Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. Lowen arrives at the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Lowen doesn't expect to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page, bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night her family was forever altered. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying could make it impossible for him to continue loving her. A standalone romantic thriller from #1 New York Times bestselling author Colleen Hoover. So I thought this book was a good book. I read it not too long ago. I'm not going to tell you what I gave it because I actually read this month in March, so I'm actually going to tell you what I thought about it in my March wrap-up when I filmed that. But I thought overall this was a good book, but I'll get more into detail once I film that video. The next book I have to talk about is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. Then, the last thing Quinn expected was to meet the love of her life just outside her fiance's front door. A year after leaving behind their cheating partners, Quinn and Graham are in a perfect relationship that seems destined by fate. Now, several years later, the perfect love is threatened by the imperfect marriage. The memories, mistakes, and dreams that have built up over the years are tearing them apart. The one thing that can save them might also be the very thing that pushes their marriage past the point of no return. So I actually thought this book was really, really good. In my opinion, this wasn't like the other books that I've read by Colleen, which were obviously Verity, Ugly Love, It Ends With Us. This was a little different. I feel like all of those books usually had a twist or a turn. This one didn't really have a twist or a turn. This one was more so watching the couple's relationship from the past and then from the present, watching how they were when they first got together, how in love they were, to a couple years into their marriage where everything is kind of falling apart. So it's really more of a deep dive into the relationship. I thought it was still really, really good, and I think I gave this one a 3-star or a 4-star on Goodreads, I'm not sure. But I really did like this one. The last Colleen Hoover I have, this one I actually haven't read, and that is November 9. Fallon meets Ben, an aspiring novelist, the day before her scheduled cross-country move. Their untimely attraction leads them to spend Fallon's last day in LA together, and her eventful life becomes the creative inspiration Ben has always sought out for his novels. Over time, and amidst the various relationships and tribulations of their own separate lives, they continue to meet on the same day every year. Until one day, Fallon becomes unsure if Ben has been telling her the truth or fabricating a perfect reality for the sake of the ultimate plot twist. Can Ben's relationship with Fallon and simultaneously his novel be considered a love story if it ends in heartbreak? I'm actually really excited for this one. This one is really high on my TBR right now. Every time I go on TikTok, every time I go on BookTube, everyone's like, November 9, it's so good. So I'm definitely going to be picking this one up soon. So the next book I have, I've literally seen everywhere, and I actually bought this one before it was hyped and before book talk was a thing, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I'm actually really excited to read this one. This one is really high on my TBR, just like November 9 is. I've had this book for so long and I'm excited to get into it. I'm just kind of scared of Greek mythology. I don't really know much about it. I've never really got into it, so I'm kind of scared that it's not accessible, but I've actually heard this book is really accessible for people who don't know much about Greek mythology, so I'm definitely going to give it a read really soon. Achilles, the best of all the Greeks, son of the cruel sea goddess Thetis and the legendary king Peleus, is strong, swift, and beautiful, irresistible to all who meet him. Patroclus is an awkward young prince exiled from his homeland after an act of shocking violence. Brought together by chance, they forged an inseparable bond despite risking the gods' wrath. They are trained by the centaur Chiron in the acts of war and medicine, but when word comes that Helen of Sparta has been kidnapped, all the heroes of Greece are called upon to lay siege to Troy in her name. Seduced by the promise of glorious destiny, Achilles joins their cause and torn between love and fear for his friend, Patroclus follows. Little do they know that the cruel fates will test them both as never before and demand a terrible sacrifice. That was a tongue twister. I can't even say the names, but I'm actually really excited to pick this book up, so I really hope I love it. Everyone says this book is really, really sad too. I'm not afraid of sad books, but I don't know. People say books are sad and I never cry, so we'll see if I actually cry. The next book I have is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I've been really into romance lately and everyone says this is like the best book ever, so I'm really, really excited to get into this. Poppy and Alex and Poppy. They have nothing in common. She's a wild child, he wears khakis. She has an insatiable wanderlust, he prefers to stay at home with a book. And somehow, ever since a fateful car share home from college many years ago, they are the very best of friends. For most of the year, they live far apart. She's in New York City and he's in their small hometown. For every summer for a decade, they have taken one glorious week of vacation together. Until 2 years ago, they ruined everything. They haven't spoken since. Poppy has everything she should want, but she's stuck in a rut. When someone asks when she was last truly happy, she knows without a doubt that it was on the ill-fated trip with Alex. And so she decides to convince her best friend to take one more vacation together, lay everything on the table, and make it all right. Miraculously, he agrees. Now she has a week to fix everything. If only she can get around the one big truth that has always stood quietly in the middle of their seemingly perfect relationship. What could possibly go wrong? A lot of people prefer this over beach read, and I'm actually going to talk about that next, but I don't know, somehow this one intrigues me a little bit more, so I feel like I am going to like this a little bit more than beach read. The next book I have is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Augustus Everett is an acclaimed author of literary fiction. January Andrews writes best-selling romance. When she pens The Happily Ever After, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. In fact, the only thing they have in common is that for the next 3 months, they're living in their neighboring beach houses, broke and bogged down with writer's block. Then one hazy evening, one thing leads to another, and they strike a deal designed to force them out of their creative ruts. Augustus will spend the summer writing something happy, and January will pen the next great American novel. She'll take him on field trips worthy of any rom-com montage, and he'll take her to interview surviving members of backwood death cults, obviously. Everyone will finish a book and no one will fall in love. Really. I don't know. Somehow I don't have high hopes for this, but actually I do. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know. Okay, next book I have actually is kind of outside my comfort zone. It is definitely a romance and everyone loves it and it's a really big series, but I don't know. I don't really like books set in high school, but we'll see if I actually like it. So the next book I have is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. She's about to make a deal with a college bad boy. Hannah Wells has finally found someone who turns her on. But while she might be confident in every other area of her life, she's carting around a full set of baggage when it comes to sex and seduction. If she wants to get her crush's attention, she'll have to step out of her comfort zone and make him take notice. Even if it means tutoring the annoying, childish, cocky captain of the hockey team in exchange for a pretend date. And it's going to be oh so good. All Garrett Graham has ever wanted to play is professional hockey after graduation, but his plummeting GPA is threatening everything he's worked so hard for. If helping a sarcastic brunette makes another guy jealous will lift his grades and secure his position on the team, he's all for it. But when one unexpected kiss leads to the wildest sex of both of their lives, it doesn't take long for Garrett to realize that pretend isn't going to cut it. Now he just has to convince Hannah that the man she wants looks a lot like him. Yes, The Deal. The next book I have, I've seen everywhere on TikTok, on Book Talk, obviously, and that is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Macy Sorensen is settling into an ambitious, if emotionally tepid routine. Work is hard as a new pediatrics resident, plan her wedding to an older, financially secure man, keeps her head down and heart tucked away. But when she runs into Elliot, the first and only love of her life, the careful bubble she constructed begins to dissolve. Once upon a time, Elliot was Macy's entire world, growing from her gangly, bookish friend into the man who coaxed her heart open again, only to break it on the night he declared his love for her. Told in altering timelines, love to see that, between then and now, teenage Elliot and Macy grow into friends to much more, spending weekends and lazy summers together in a house outside of San Francisco, devouring books, sharing favorite words, and talking through their growing pains and triumphs. As adults, they have become strangers to one another until their chance reunion. Although their memories are obscured by the agony of what happened that night so many years ago, Elliot will come to understand the truth behind Macy's dedicated long silence and will have to overcome the past and himself to revive her faith in the possibility of an all-consuming love. I'm really excited for this. Actually, I'm really excited for all these books. I keep saying that. But Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, everyone says just read it, so I'm just gonna read it. The next book I have is also part of a series, and that is Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. She's addicted to sex, he's addicted to booze. The only way out is rock bottom. No one would suspect shy Lily Calloway's biggest secret. While everyone is dancing at college bars, Lily stays in the bathroom to get laid. Her compulsion leads to one-night stands, steamy hookups, and events she shamefully regrets. The only person who knows her secret happens to have one of his own. Lauren Hale's best friend is his bottle of bourbon. Lily comes to a close second. For 3 years, they pretend to be in a real relationship, hiding their addictions from their families. They've mastered the art of concealing flasks and random guys that filter in and out of their apartment. But as they sink beneath the weight of their addictions, they cling harder to their destructive relationships and wonder if a life together for real is better than a lie. Strangers and family begin to infiltrate their guarded lives, and with new challenges, they realize they might not be addicted to alcohol and sex. The real vice may be each other. I'm really excited for this book. I say that about every book in this haul, obviously that's why I got them. And obviously they're really, really good because everyone on Book Talk and BookTube is raving about the series. But I'm actually really excited to get into it and excited to read the rest of it because this is a long series and I believe it's intertwined with the Calloway Sister series. I'm not familiar with that obviously because I haven't gotten into it yet, but I'm really excited to start this book. Okay, so the last 2 books in my pile. First one is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I have never read anything by Mariana Zapata before, and I heard she is the queen of slow burn, and slow burn typically isn't my thing, but everyone says this book is really, really good, so I definitely wanted to give it a try, and who knows, maybe it'll be my thing. If someone were to ask Jasmine Santos to describe the last few years of her life with a single word, it would definitely be a 4-letter one. After 17 years and countless broken bones and broken promises, she knows her window to compete in figure skating is coming to a close. When the offer of a lifetime comes in from an arrogant idiot, she spends the last decade dreaming about pushing in the way of a moving bus. Jasmine might have to reconsider everything, including Ivan Lukov. This book is pretty thick. The big book fear is real, and I really hope I don't have to wait until the last 10 pages to actually get anything, but we'll see, and I'll definitely let you know. Okay, so the last book I have is a romance, and this book is actually the last book I just finished, and that is Credence by Penelope Douglas. So this is actually my second Penelope Douglas book, and I actually really liked it. But I'll get into all the details about it in my March wrap-up. Tiernan DeHaas doesn't care about anything anymore. The only child of a film producer and his starlet wife, she's grown up with wealth and privilege, but not love or guidance. Shipped off to boarding schools from an early age, it was still impossible to escape the loneliness and carve out life of her own. The shadow of her parents' fame followed her everywhere. And when they suddenly pass, she knows she should be devastated, but has anything really changed? She has always been alone, hasn't she? Jake Vandenberg, her father's stepbrother and her only living relative, assumes guardianship of Tiernan, who is still 2 months shy of 18. Sent to live with him and his 2 sons, Noah and Caleb, in the mountains of Colorado. Tiernan soon learns that these men now have a say in what she chooses to care and not care about anymore. As the 3 of them take her under her wing, teach her how to work and survive in the remote woods far away from the rest of the world, she slowly finds her place among them and as part of them. And she soon realizes that lines blur and rules become easy to break when no one else is watching. One of them has her, the other one wants her, but he is going to keep her. When I picked this up, I was really, really excited to read this, and I read it. And I can't tell you what I thought about it, but I have a lot of thoughts. So we will definitely get into that in my wrap-up video. I didn't have a lot to say about all of them because I didn't read all of them, but the ones I did read were pretty good, and I can definitely see why a lot of people on TikTok and BookTok are raving about them. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Hopefully you'll join me on my reading and my book journey. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on all my social medias. I'll put them down below. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye!